Hello world, hello internet, and welcome to this first episode of the 2023 Nix Developer Dialogues. Thank you for joining. So what is all of this about? My name is Valentin, I'm your host. My host name is Frickler Handwerk, if you ever wondered how that's pronounced. If you're new to Nix, Nix is an incredibly powerful tool to support software development. It's the basis of Nix packages, arguably the largest and most up-to-date software repository in the world, free software that is, and NixOS, which is a peculiar but very intriguing Linux distribution, which you can configure fully declaratively. All of this is at the core of what we call the Nix ecosystem, and the community making it is supported by the NixOS Foundation, a nonprofit in the Netherlands. This year, for the third time in a row now, the foundation organized Summer of Nix, a software development and knowledge sharing program aimed at packaging ever more free and open source software. And that in a way that if you want to try or use it, you don't have to worry how to get it to build and run in the first place. That's one of the defining features of Nix. These software projects and the Summer of Nix program are funded through the Next Generation Internet Initiative by the European Commission. This year, many of the participants of Summer of Nix started with barely any Nix knowledge. They were fairly new, and they gained a lot of experience with the tooling. But to become a real Nixer, an integral part of the community, you should get in touch with the people making the technology. So if you always wondered what's cooking behind the scenes of a large open source software project such as NixOS, this show is just for you. Here we want to get out the stuff that you won't find in the source code, the stuff that is rarely discussed online on Discourse or Matrix, stuff that concerns real people who make this vision come true that we finally get computers to just work, and hopefully for a long time. So don't worry, I won't repeat all of that. This was just for context. It won't be in every show. Before we start, I want you to know that you can send us questions anytime on any of the platforms this is being streamed to. There's also a Matrix channel, which is linked in the show description. And if you want to join the show and participate and ask your questions in person, join the studio and I will put you on the show when there's time. Now, I hope you will find this entertaining and at least somewhat enlightening. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests today. Jörg Thalheim, known as Mick92, and Lassulus, known as just Lassulus. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, great that you're here today. Thanks so much for taking time. So our topic today is living the Nix life, and I cannot imagine having better guests than you for this. So you've contributed to the Nix ecosystem a great deal in terms of technology, but also culture, and we'll talk about this later a bit. But you've also achieved something that many still consider a dream, and that is working with and on open source software for a living. We'll also get into that later a bit. But the first obvious question to every long-term Nixer is, who or what got you into Nix, and why are you still here?
We can start, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So what got me into Nix is, so in the beginning, I was like a Arch Linux user for like 5 years, maybe. So already long-term in, and back in the days, I was using containers a lot. Also like learned how they work on the operating system level and stuff like that. But I was always like not really satisfied how they're built, because you always build like these large root file systems where there's like a lot of data and there's not much sharing between different containers. And then I saw like one project that would just use some Nix expression and then build containers based on the host Nix store, and then just like, yeah, now we could share stuff between different containers. And then, yeah, I installed Nix, tried it out, eventually found out like, I don't actually need these containers in the first place, because NixOS just like gives me these isolations by default. And yeah, this is how I got into that. And yeah, and then I started contributing a bit. Eventually, like Jonas or Tim Bottom like asked me if I want to become a maintainer and merge stuff, and then yeah, I had this like period where I would like merge a lot of things in Nix packages, and yeah.
Yeah, so I started like 10 years ago. My flatmate brought it back from some hacker trip and said, "Oh, look at this cool stuff here." And I was using Arch Linux for like 6 years, and had a lot of computers. And they were all like configured in different ways, but it was very hard to maintain them all in a good way. And then I saw NixOS, and it was like a cool way to declare your systems in one way. And then I started using it, contributing to it, and now I can't let go of it because all my computers are in this configuration and I can never migrate to anything else, I guess. Also, like the community is now part of my life, I guess. Most of the people I know use NixOS in one way or another.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love to have you here. I think that's a great topic to talk about. So we'll talk a lot about the people in the community in a couple of minutes. So I looked it up. So Lassulus, you started contributing to NixOS or Nix packages in 2015, and Jörg, that was only a year later in 2016. And it's quite amazing. You've been part of more than 10,000 commits over the past 8 years or 7 years or something. That's on average almost 4 per day. And not even counting all the other open source projects that you're working on. How do you sustain this? How do you have the time? How do you, where do you take all that energy?
So I think a lot of the things that are in Nix packages, they happened during my PhD, and there happened to be a time where I was like a bit procrastinating with, my normal projects don't work out, and I was like constantly just merging things. And it was also when I wrote Nix packages review, and I think that's probably how most of these things somehow happened for me. I think these days I think I'm a little bit less active there. I'm more on doing the tooling around it. That takes like more time now than I can spend on Nix packages itself.
Yeah, I usually just review stuff when it comes up. If I see in some channel someone looking for a review and no one answers in 5 minutes, I will take a look usually. But yeah, reviewing is the easy part. Doing stuff is the harder part. Like with Disco, I usually just respond to people asking stuff on their own issues or somewhere else. So it's basically community-driven. Like people poke me, and I think, oh shit, yeah, this is broken. We have to fix this actually.
Nagging-driven development.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to tell a bit more details about Disco. We'll come to this later. So your if I look at your repositories out there, many of them are actually part of Numtide. This thing that you're working with, is that part of your job? What is this? What is this Numtide? Is it a company? Is it a bird or a plane? What is it?
It's basically a collective of freelancers. So we are all are freelancers, and we have like Numtide sometimes gets jobs for us, or sometimes we get jobs and give it to Numtide, and they take a cut, and we get assigned to projects. So we basically choose the projects ourselves. Like there's a pool of projects, and people take projects out of there, and then we work for them. That's the gist of it. And it's we try to do everything in open source.
Yeah, and we also, it's like a cool network to be in as well. You have like other people that, we can also do projects together, do something that is bigger than what we would achieve if we just work on that on our own.
How many of you are there?
Or
is it a fuzzy boundary?
Yes, fuzzy boundaries sometimes. So sometimes people come there, sometimes they leave silently, sometimes they leave openly.
Because
you have to put away your mic, it's scratching.
Yeah, I think your microphone is rubbering against it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes we basically, I think we're like between 15 and 20 people.
Yeah, but because there's no like hours you have to do, like some people that are just hanging around, but they're not doing anything, like working funny and anything actively. Yeah, they work for their own clients or stuff like that.
So how does it work? Do people approach you and say, I've heard about this Nix thing, that sounds amazing, can you like do your magic and Nixify my software stack? Or what does
sometimes it works like this.
Yeah, often I think more often the customers, they already use Nix or they're interested in using it, and they are sometimes even more convinced to use it for something than we are for like every project also. And then we help them with whatever they have. We can cover. I think we have a good overview with technology stack. Like we can, if that's also cool if you have multiple people, you can then like give the task to the person that is the most appropriate. For example, if there's something in the Java ecosystem, there's probably someone else than me that would take this over, or
Yeah, so basically we look for clients actively sometimes, but usually they come to us. So
okay, so Jonas, I probably can't say boss, right? So is it like your primus inter pares or something? What do you call him?
the guy who never sleeps.
Multiple times over, he told me contributing to open source should be first and foremost fun. How do you have fun with Nix? And does doing that Numtide job help you work in open source apart from just doing client work?
Yeah, because usually the stuff we do ends up as some open source in one way or another, or it uses the open source software deployed at other places, so we can like extend it further with the Numtide.
And then we are asked also, sometimes it's not our project, but we are asked to fix that. Because it's like easy to set up a contract and with us. And then, this is also how contributions are created.
Okay, so what about the fun? How I've met you multiple times in person, and I found that you're very laid back about so many things, and seem to be just enjoying being part of this community. How does that show in everyday life?
Yeah, basically we hang out all day and we just talk about stuff and we fix stuff by the way. So it's like
it's more,
something, and then we get angry.
I think I'm when I'm creating some projects, I'm creating them because I want to use them, and I would stop. I think it's sometimes hard to get rid of software that you no longer use, but you still create it at some point. But I usually don't like to. I wouldn't put too much energy into something which I don't really use, and I think that's a healthy approach because. Otherwise, you just burn out over that. Unless you get paid for it or so,
Even if you get paid, you get burnt out.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get angry and then you do anger-driven development?
No, I get angry. I think about the problem, and then we think about good solutions and have fun with it in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it's fine. You just use the energy you get when something doesn't work to fix it. Or give up and use Windows again, but I don't do that.
Is that actually an option? Is Windows actually an option for you these days?
I have a Windows machine somewhere on my table here, but I haven't booted it up in 2 months now. So I also only use it for computer games.
I'm just putting it up to see what I like to look over the fence sometimes to see what other operating systems are doing and how they solve problems. But for me, the thing is, on the software that runs on my computer, I have I'm confident that if I given enough time, I would be able to fix any problem that is worth enough to fix it. So, for example, if I have a problem with my kernel, I could spend time and figure that out, and I don't have this power with anything else. So I can understand if you don't really have to, if you don't really can modify these things. For example, if you're just a user and you don't just do other things in life, and then you don't really care, then Windows is maybe good enough or so. But once you have can change everything about your OS, then it's just more fun if you can then actually do it.
So is the Nix ecosystem about power and control? Is it about making things?
Yeah, basically
every stuff easy.
Yeah, every NixOS user is somehow its own distro maintainer. So they're the distro maintainer of their own desktop or something like that, I would say, because it's just you're just able to override anything basically, and so it's really hackable in this way.
Yeah, basically Nix.
Rockgarbage, who will talk in a couple of days, this once described NixOS as the distro to make distros. Lassulus, does that fit the bill?
Basically, NixOS tricks you into thinking it's a NixOS distribution, it's a Linux distribution, but it's actually a toolkit to build your own distribution.
Yeah.
So you're apparently not just very active online, but also in this weird thing called real life. What else are you doing? So you've told me once that you were organizing meetups in the cities you live in. What does that look like? What are you doing there?
So in Berlin, we meet once a week, every Tuesday at Seabase at 7 p.m. It's open for everyone, so whoever is in the town can join us. We usually hang around, drink beer, look at over our computers, and do whatever comes up. Usually I just jump around and talk to people, and other people try to fix some problems. Sometimes people come around, want to have installed NixOS the first time. Sometimes we fix issues in Nix packages or in other tools. Sometimes we have pull requests which were open for 3 months and we review them together. It's like very wild mix of things. Sometimes we just sit around and talk about something else, like not computer related at all.
Yeah. For me, I mean, we don't really have a fixed date in the Munich area, but we think we like every month or every 2 months. We also now have a meetup there as well. It seems like it's now becoming. We now mostly do it in the Munich CCC hackerspace, and yeah, it's also really similar structured. We don't really have agendas. Usually, we just like at the beginning when we meet, and we just do like a presentation round because there's some new people. So you get to know who's doing what, and yeah, it's also a mix of people that never use NixOS and they're just interested to like the people that you always see. Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
And then we have the Mumble meetup. Maybe we could also talk
Every
about
Wednesday. Yeah, every Wednesday we have the Mumble meetup. So it's like a Mumble server on Lassulus where we have the German Mumble meetup. So usually it's German community, but if non-German speakers join, we usually switch to English.
Yeah, I think the furthest caller was from the desert in Australia or so.
Oh yeah, but I think he spoke also German.
He spoke German? I don't remember.
I think he spoke German. Yeah, it was during the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was created during the pandemic, and then it just it kept existing.
Yeah, it was meant as a replacement for the Seabase, the real meetup one, but it basically just got its own thing, and the overlap of people is not very big.
Yeah, now we even in Germany, the meetups, we also put them so they don't overlap with the Wednesday one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people are there? Please post a link to the meetup if someone in Germany wants to join. I suppose you're speaking German in those online channels.
Most of the time, but if someone joins and doesn't speak German,
it just takes one English-speaking guy. So we had someone joining from Norway regular, not recently, but then we spoke a lot more English, so it's not a problem. We're all capable of doing that.
Yeah, like NixOS is in English anyway.
I will look for the link.
I think it's on meetup.com also. Yeah. And we have it in the community calendar also in the Discord, I think.
So I want to take the occasion to remind the audience, please send us questions. Please post them on any of the channels that you're watching this on. There's also this Matrix room. So far, I haven't seen any questions as far as I can tell, but people being happy to listen to that story. So great that you're here, Jörg and Lassulus. How many people have you introduced to Nix that way? Do you have a rough estimate? It seems like I was in one of these Mumble meetups more than a year ago, and it seemed like you're highly organized and very enthusiastic. Lots of regulars there, and many names that I've seen on the internet already. So you seem to be quite productive. How many people are you?
In the meetup?
Generally, in this local communities, in these local communities.
That's very hard to estimate, I guess. Between 2 and 100.
What in the Berlin one?
In the NixOS German meetup scene, I guess.
I mean, yeah, we're probably around 10 to 15 people in these meetups, but there's like people that come 1 week and not another week, and sometimes also people that come from further away, from Augsburg, or sometimes people are just traveling. So last meetup we had Thalheim coming from the US. So yeah, and then in this Wednesday Mumble meetup, there's maybe like 6 people, 5 people. So yeah,
5 regulars. During the pandemic, it was more, but now it's less active. Sometimes we have good days where we like 11 people, and sometimes we have bad days where just 2 people.
Yeah, but they had also like I think there's also upper limit how much people you can have in an online chat before it becomes too annoying and everyone just runs and talks about each other. So
but usually the problem is no one talks because people are afraid to talk over each other.
Yeah.
So I suppose Lassulus, you already told us about it, that you're helping new people install NixOS on their computer. I suppose you have installed NixOS on a lot of computers. Doesn't that get annoying at some point?
No, I usually automate it. So Disco basically was one of the step of the automating installing for me, or like having NixOS Anywhere. Like these are the tools we build to automate stuff, so we don't get annoyed by it all the time.
So,
So
how does
usually,
it work? So you have Disco and NixOS Anywhere. What are these tools?
oh yeah, so Disco is like a declarative partitioning tool. So you write your disk layout in your NixOS configuration, and then basically it generates a script to format your hard drive. Because right now in the manual, the
NixOS manual?
The NixOS manual, yeah, the biggest manual step is basically format your hard drive and mount it. So that's like the hardest part, the part that the most people always fuck up.
Yeah, so they have an unbootable system.
Yeah, usually they didn't partition right, so you can't install a bootloader, or the system can't find the bootloader, or you don't have space for anything. So usually with Disco it's now easier because you can have like this disk layouts declaratively, so you can just steal them from someone else or copy them, and basically then it's just running the script and installing NixOS the manual way. And with NixOS Anywhere, even these steps get automated. If you have a running server somewhere, you just need an SSH connection to there, and it runs the Disco script and basically installs NixOS on it.
Here, Francis has a comment. Now we have a GUI installer, though. What about that?
Oh, that's also nice, but I never used it, actually. So all the people who come to my meetup don't want to use the GUI installer. Not sure why.
Yeah, actually, so I hear the feedback that the GUI installer is apparently easier than installing Ubuntu. Just like a side note from someone that I heard it using it. I mean, for me, automating this installation was not like really driven by people asking me to install NixOS in system. It's like more getting NixOS on machines where you only have some other Linux running, and then you need to replace it. Also like making it easier to reinstall machines. So sometimes you just have, if you have enough machines. For example, I have like a part-time job of my of the university where I did my doctor, and sometimes like just hardware breaks and you have to reinstall. And now if you did the partitioning manually and you don't really remember what you actually put on there, and just having this one script that just like brings the machine back to the state it was before, it just makes life so much easier. Also, when you want to do like knowledge transfer, so in universities, for example, you have people that graduate every in a predictable frequency, so you need to like carry on the knowledge from generation to generation, and having it automated makes it easier.
Yeah, also
encode that knowledge into machine executable format, right?
Yeah, basically. So one time I had this problem. I actually DD'd the NixOS installer to my real hard disk. So it's like removed the partition table, and but I was still running the system, so it was fine. And I just ran the Disco script again to like recreate the partition table, and everything was working again. I just had to recreate the boot partition, so it was nice.
Awesome, nice. So working at university, Jörg, I suppose you also expose a lot of people to NixOS since you were like supply all the infrastructure there.
Yeah, so we have there's like this chair that we're running there. There's like maybe like
the NixOS department.
15 people working there, but you have a lot of master students, for example, that joined it for like some time to do their degree and so on, and they all then have to use NixOS because it's the device that's installed there. And then you also get a lot of questions from people that never use Nix, or they have problems, and especially when this chair does systems research, so doing a lot of C programming and really edge casey stuff. So you actually like had to really stretch what's possible with Nix for these things. And also tools came out of that, like Nix LD, which allows you to run like arbitrary binaries that you have downloaded without having to modify them heavily.
That is upstream in NixOS, right? You can configure it as an option.
Yeah, so there's one option where you say programs.nix-ld.enable, and then you can configure libraries, and then if you find some binaries on the internet, then you can run them now if you have all the libraries configured correctly. And that helped a lot when people like they sometimes not just start new projects. Sometimes it's also about in research about reproducing other people's work. So you have these installation procedures where they assume some Ubuntu, and then they have this script made that does some random stuff on your computer. And I just wanted to make these things work without having them to like investigate where it's breaking. Because you want to be efficient there, and so I built NixLD and this other file system that allows you to make all the shebangs in scripts working, called NFFS. That also came out of that. It's nice if you have like users, and then you produce some tools, and then it's like feedback loop where you can test them and see how it works.
It's nice to have users for software.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your edge casey stuff on the NixOS user wiki that you have written over the past couple of years. There's a lot of very in-depth material that you produced, I suppose, out of these research projects. Lassulus, you're active in security research, security stuff. Is NixOS helpful? Is NixOS helpful for that as well? How does it help?
NixOS. So I don't do much security research directly, but I guess it's helpful in any way.
I can imagine how it would be useful. So I'm not having a security background, but my field was close to security, so I was able to use a lot of material that the security community produces in a way for my work as well. And I think just being able to quickly create VMs where you can sandbox the exploits that you found, it's probably useful to have there as well.
Yeah, also the whole tooling is useful for any kind of work, basically. So also security work, building VMs, having patches inline in the package, so you can like test the package if it's like patched already.
That's also really useful for research. So often when you do new stuff, you break old software, and because you're introducing new paradigms, and then you need to add patches, and how do you now maintain these patches? It's quite a lot of work. And if you can just like say like, I do this override on this existing library and just add this one more patch thing, and then I produce some description that I then can post online, and then other people can reproduce the stuff that we did. That's also nice, especially now in research. There's developed over the last few years of when I was doing my PhD, that now actually people would test your paper after you got accepted to a conference, would actually try to reproduce the results immediately. And there was then easy for me to say like, I'm writing this Python script that then just calls Nix, and then the people have like something that is very close to what I did.
Okay, we have an audience question by Andy Wilson. I saw the project Nix Snapshot are integrating Containerd and Nix. Have you used that?
Not yet. Maybe it's cool.
I have seen it. There was also a talk on. Oh no, was it a talk or was it just a post talk? No.
Can you maybe provide some context? What is Nix Snapshot? I
think it's so Containerd is this component that's also used in Docker, but also in Kubernetes to like run containers on your system. And I mean, if I remember correctly, Nix Snapshot is then replacing the storage layer for that. So maybe you can reuse layers of your Nix store between different containers. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the project, so.
Okay. So another thing that I wondered is, since you've been dealing with beginners a lot, is what about the learning curve? I mean, Nix and NixOS are still largely suitable for software developers who have lots of contextual knowledge, who can get along on their own. How do you perceive this? How do you see these beginners dealing with the stuff that you present them? Is that a big challenge, or how does it work?
The beginners usually have less problems than the people who are like experienced with other Linux distributions, because they have to relearn stuff.
What is that, for instance?
For instance, so people are like used to put stuff into user bin or lib or have like global search paths. So, and people learned that stuff, and now they have to relearn it, and it feels annoying often. So that's like the bigger problem with beginners. Yeah, everything is difficult with computers. So NixOS is no exception. And it's a bit more difficult because you have this weird language on top, which is actually quite cool.
Yeah. So for me, I think they all mostly like Linux user already. They also don't do that much NixOS stuff usually. They're more about getting their development setup right, and they often complain about missing documentation and stuff for their use case. I think what I now started doing is having just like an hour in a week where I can just like, you can come here and to this room, and then we talk about different things. I think that's.
What's the role of this in-person interaction in teaching Nix ecosystem stuff? Being available in person, like doing things together.
I think in-person exchange is probably still the most efficient way to get like people trained up. So like looking at the concrete problem. I don't know. You can do presentations just for like teaching how what the advantages is, like marketed it to people, so they actually would be interested in trying it. But I think then you have concrete problems and you need to figure them out.
It's also a nicer, faster interaction loop if you can just look at the screen of the people and talk to them. I think it's also fine via Jitsi, but it's also personal interaction. So it's like you can explain the problem faster and find a solution faster, usually if you work with people one-on-one.
Okay, we're now deep in the technology. We're talking about deployment systems with Lassulus and Jörg, longtime Nix and NixOS contributors. Here's a question by Vinit. Is NixOps going to implement a centralized state file like Terraform? So maybe briefly explain what NixOps is and try to answer the question.
So NixOps is like the grandfather of all deployment tools for NixOS. So it was like the first tool, and I think was it not actually even older than Terraform? I'm not so sure about that, but it already had like things that later then became more popular with Terraform. So you could not just deploy new NixOS configuration onto a machine remotely from your own laptop or like to a fleet of machines. There was also integration in there to create VMs, for example, locally or in cloud environments. So it has a lot of integration there. I feel like in the current state, it's like not the best maintained tool anymore, and that's probably personally I would not really recommend to people to jump on this first, because it has, for example, this state file, this SQLite database. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but it has like this SQLite file that writes its state to, and that makes it a bit difficult to work on that in a team. So you have to find some workarounds for that. And I think most people don't really need all this state and all the extra features that have. They usually just have like, I have these few machines and I want to deploy NixOS configuration. There's like a lot of tools now these days. It's so easy
So what would you recommend people to do?
They use Terraform directly and then basically use NixOS on top of it. That's what we usually do.
Yeah, so if you ask 3 people how they deploy NixOS, you get 5 answers. But it just shows like how easy it is to actually create even a new NixOS tool. So if you want to start really simple, just use NixOS Rebuild. It has also a flag to SSH into a remote machine and push the closure there. And if you just have one machine, that's perfect fine to start with. If you have
NixOS Rebuild is the built-in command line program to build a NixOS configuration, right? And you can build it to deploy to a remote machine.
So you can just start with that. I often even just reinvent deployment tools because I have like special use cases for this class, for this particular customer. If you have some high availability requirements, we need to restart machines in a certain order, do some health checks in between. And it's just like the actual part that all these tools like NixOps do is just like a few lines of code. It's like maybe 3 lines. I don't know. So you can just like redo them and or use some of the other tools like Colmina or so.
Yeah, some of the tools basically are just rsync and NixOS Rebuild.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes it's enough. Sometimes it's not enough.
By the Nix store model, right? So you have the entire closure. All you have to do is just copy the files when they appear.
Yeah, so yeah, just Nix copy closuring to the target system can be done by NixOS rebuild, I think, even standalone. So yeah, it's basically the most of the building blocks are there, and it's very easy to build your own deployment system. That's the reason why everybody does it.
Yeah. There was like a survey, and I think the biggest deployment system was custom homegrown solution. So there's not really a market leader, and that's fine. Like everyone has like slightly different use cases. Yeah, maybe you should give. Jonas was posting it. Maybe you should give like new people like 1 or 2 options, try this if you don't know what you want to use, and from there people figured out what they like best. So
yeah,
I suppose that DiscoN and NixOS Anywhere is going to help people infect the world with more NixOS machines. Do you even have devices that don't run NixOS apart from your Windows machine?
I have a Nintendo Switch here, which also doesn't.
I have a phone. I have a phone. I mean, it runs. Okay, it runs Nix, but just in this. What is this Android program called where you can?
Termux?
Yeah, Termux, but it's forked. There was like a Nix
Nix
fork. Yeah, I'm not really using it, but I have it installed. I don't know. I just was testing it.
I use it sometimes to like test stuff on an Arch64 machine I have with me.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think.
When you presented Disco and NixOS Anywhere at NixCon a couple of two months ago, not even, I asked you what would it take to get this to be the default installation method for NixOS? What does need to be done?
Ooh, there's like a pull request open from me to like upstream the Disco type, because there's like a polymorphic type which can do different implementations depending on what you give it as a type. So there's like a type option in there, and it's like depending on the type options, the other option fields are different.
Who did you give this to review, or no one yet?
No, like Robert and Infinity already reviewed it. I just have to do some fixes and then basically continue with this.
Okay.
So
that's like the big question about once you start with NixOS. You usually it's not like with packages. It's usually easy. You just like upstream your package build and then you fetch from a remote source. But how do you manage a project that used to be like an external project that has its own repository, but you need to have the NixOS modules in Nix packages? Like this split, I'm not really sure about what's the best way to deal with that is. And I think that's also maybe the major reason, because NixOS Anywhere, it's already in Nix packages, but for Disco, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, you already scratched the surface on this a little bit. Who is actually working on NixOS? So if I want to make a non-trivial contribution, who would I have to ask? Does it just kind of flow through the PR review process?
Well, that would be nice if it would flow through, but usually you have to know someone to get it somewhere.
So who do you have to know? Who's working on it?
The different departments so different parts of the code have different owners who like have their eyes on it or their say in it. So if you do something in, for example, systemd, you would have to talk to the systemd team. If you do something in NixOS types, probably Robert or Infinity. If you do something with Doom parts, I'm the expert with that, and with some other people.
These are doomed parts?
Doom,
like the game.
The game.
Doom, the game. Okay. Are there doomed parts in NixOS?
Doomed parts. Oh, all packages, but luckily this gets resolved slowly.
I think there's like a bit. I have this. I built this review tool for Nix packages a pull request where it would build all the packages that have been changed by a pull request called Nix packages review. And if our CI bot called offborg, if it already has evaluated all the packages in there and provided this information, then it's fine. Then Nix Packages Review can just take this list and know what packages has to rebuild. But if this information is not available, or if people just like test these things that they done locally, then I think I hit like numbers where it now takes like 14 gigabytes of RAM to evaluate that. And this is something I'm like concerned about that because you add more and more stuff and it never gets less. Like at some point, people will be not able to evaluate this anymore on normal desktop computers. So yeah, this is something where we need to like either fix Nix and fix things in Nix or Nix packages. Like yeah. But it's not really. I saw some people that tried to do the performance optimizations, but no one really knows like what a good solution for this is, or it takes long to implement solutions.
Yeah, and we maybe we grow faster than the performance solutions can keep us down. So that's like a problem.
Yeah, the
so many
community
new
is growing
packages
quite quickly, right? And
Yeah.
there's lots of challenges. I mean, I suppose there's many pain points, not just for end users or developer users doing their own custom distribution, but also for maintainers of this seriously large software ecosystem. What is the most annoying thing for you about this whole Nix ecosystem?
Most annoying thing.
Okay, you're living the Nix life. There cannot be anything like that about it.
I think like I think debates become more heated lately, I would say, sometimes, because like just given enough people, it's easier now to have like more discussions, and sometimes this becomes heated. And then as a moderation team, you have to then figure out how to resolve these issues, and how to slow down, or like you don't really want to like completely take it off if necessary, because you don't want to like kill the discussion, but you want to have it so that people are not just starting flame wars, but it's actually something coming out. It's also because the community it becomes bigger and there's more stake and more people have systems that they rely on keep working. It's also becoming more difficult to do new things. So you have to plan things more carefully, plan the migration better. And if you have more code and you change something, then more other code can break as well.
Yeah, also the same for community. If you have more people, you have more different opinions, and then there's a probability that some people don't like each other for different reasons. So there's some moderation has to become, I guess, better in this case, because
sorry. Continue.
There was a bit of drama in the last couple of weeks. I feel it got more, but maybe just because I was involved in some of it, so I'm not sure if it's my bias.
So Jörg, you're also part of the moderation team, do I understand correctly?
Yeah, I'm also part of that. I maybe not like. I think there's some others that put more energy into this, but I think moderation is something where you have to like keep an eye on how much you get involved, because it's quite easily to get burned out over these things. And there's probably also some sort of rotation needed, because if you only read about the bad things that happens in Nix Community, that maybe like makes you think that everything is bad, but it's just like a bias in itself. Yeah.
You mentioned burnout, so I asked a question already in the beginning. Where do you take the energy? So Lawrence is asking a question on Matrix. He would like to know more about the why. What's your motivation to dedicate so much time and energy towards NixOS? You're doing apparently way too many things, and if you do get frustrated from time to time, how do you reconnect?
Basically, I don't do computers for a couple of days and then I come back, and the computer's already installed with NixOS.
I think you can also just do other things, like do some sports or so in between, and also this gives you energy as well. Like if you work out physically, that also gives you energy mentally. You can ask people that do professional gaming; they do the same. And I think it's just like intrinsic motivation. You see like things get a little bit better. I just like maintaining things and polish them, and not just like build a prototype that barely works. So there's like two types of people. There's like people that just like to try like out new things, and then they're like, oh yeah, I got it somehow working, and now I can like go to the next project and just abandon this. And I think I'm more of the opposite type, and I'd rather have like a few projects that work well and improve them constantly.
So Francis recommends picking up scuba diving in Lanzarote.
I did that, but Francis knows we shared a flat there last week or 2 weeks ago. That was nice there.
There was an Ocean Sprint meetup for lots of Nix developers meeting in Lanzarote for working for an entire week. I was also that's where I met you last time. although we live in the same country. So here's a question that goes more in the direction of the future, since we're slowly running out of time and have to come to an end. Ivan asks, if you know Geeks, what do you think it does better in Nix and NixOS? Let's look beyond our own backyard here.
I still haven't used it yet, but
I'm also looking into it every once in a while. I think they're a bit more. I think their philosophy is a bit more principled, I would say. So they rather go like the long run and do things properly, where we also accept a temporary hack more easily.
Yeah. For example, string templating. Geeks doesn't like string templating, and Nix heavily relies on it.
Yeah, I think maybe their language is a bit more like polished, and I mean with the language I mean things like the standard library, that function names are a bit more consistent and stuff like that, and a bit more structured. But I also feel like sometimes they stay then this way a bit in the way of their own success. So they more accept like perfect rather than good, for example. Or
is the Nix community more pragmatic?
Yeah, I think so.
At least it's our opinion. I mean, they can probably know some Geeks people hate me for that also.
Yeah, I'm not part of the Geeks community, so I'm not sure.
And please add your comments to the chat or join the show. Pick up the debate.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the community a little bit more before we come to an end. When we talked more than a year about founding the Nix documentation team, so you're a founding member, you contributed a lot to the NixOS user wiki. You, as I told the audience, you were writing a lot of documentation on C and C++ stuff and edge casey things. You said the following, if I remember correctly: you're following this tenet, whoever is doing the work is right. Is that still true in the Nix community? How does what's the atmosphere? How do people coordinate what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean they talk to each other, I guess. In Matrix or they meet, maybe on Meetups also things are happening. And I think it's true. Like if you do more things, then people will look up to your work and respect your opinion more than if you're just like someone just passing by. But it's still like open to everyone, which is also like something I liked at the beginning. So I wouldn't even know how to get started to get something added to Ubuntu. Or maybe there's documentation on it, but I think like the barrier entry is a lot higher than you go to the GitHub site, clone the repository, add what you want to add, and then make a pull request. I think there's a lot more. There's a lot less friction to do something and also fix something, because like everything is just in one repository. And I mean, contribution documentation is there. So for me, it feels like, finally can like fix things as well than just accepting what's there. Yeah.
Not sure what to say about that.
So how did you begin? I mean, I've heard people say anyone can take responsibility, just pick a piece of code and own it. Did that work for you?
Yeah. Usually you touch something, you fix it later. So then you're suddenly responsible. You're the local expert, and then you have it to fix, to maintain it until you find another local expert.
Even if you're not the local expert, even if you're not actually an expert.
Yeah, I think
expert.
That's a different thing. I think the trust model of Nix packages allows it also to become easier to become a maintainer, because everything is just in the repository. Someone will review and merge it, and then it's built by some central infrastructure. In other projects and other Linux distributions, there's still sometimes the case where the package maintainer is actually the person that builds and uploads and signs the packages, and therefore you have to have a way higher trust into this person. And I think that's like that's like one mechanism why it's so easy to contribute to Nix packages, because the trust doesn't need to be there. People can read the code and understand before applying it.
Yeah, you can also easily patch the code yourself, try it out, and then contribute it. It's harder.
Yeah, so since you are influential members of the community, and for the audience who don't know MiG92 and Lassulus, the amount and diversity of innovation that they have built around the Nix ecosystem is staggering. It's just look at Jörg's GitHub activity. It's like, is there even any day or time of the day where you don't code? I like, it's really hard to imagine. It's like all green, like da 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 da. What's your particular long-term goals? That's a question by Lawrence on Matrix. What do you have any particular long-term goals for Nix or NixOS that you're working on, such as automating this partitioning with Disco? You had already talked about it, but is this part of a bigger agenda or something like that, such as making NixOS more accessible?
So I have to quickly get a charger for my laptop.
Okay, so yeah, we have different projects we work on. Right now we're working on a project to like make NixOS more accessible. It's like very raw until yet. It's called Clan, so it has like some VM stuff, some opinionated NixOS config to make it easier for other people to use it, basically. And we're working on this now basically full time. So when we're getting paid for it, so we work on it. But we also do a lot of other non-paid work. And basically the idea is to make it easier with a web interface and automatic disk partitioning, automatic backups, mesh VPN to like have your fleet of computers and automatically maintain them.
Yeah, also have NixOS on machines that don't run without replacing the OS. Basically have it on other OSs running. I think that's also like some long-term goal. And then have these VMs that you then create also be connected through a VPN. This last year, we did a lot of deployment things for NixOS. So this year I was putting more time into building Nix for projects because I have more of my own projects. I have like a lot of projects. I need CI for them to automatically build them. And Nix is a bit special. And in this case, when you want to rebuild your project, and there was not really something that satisfied me in terms of that it's like open source and you can that it's a good Nix integration. So I worked on something called Buildboard Nix. So Buildboard is like a really old CI actually, but it's still like well maintained, and it's also more like a framework, and this like allows me to integrate Nix better into this. And this is something we recently deployed in the Nix Community org, which hosts a lot of projects, and there we also have our own CI machines that we can get sponsored for. And you can also get your own, can also get SSH access to other builders, so you can actually run things on machines physically. You can connect to them. You can get a macOS builder. You can get an x86 builder. And then we also have a CI for, so you can build your project and then they get uploaded to a 1 terabyte binary cache. And so I can maybe share the link to our Buildboard instance here. If I can. Oh, I cannot post links actually.
We can post all the links after the show into the channels where this is being streamed. Lassulus, maybe briefly, can you make an outline of what this Nix community thing is about?
Nix community thing?
The Nix community GitHub org.
GitHub org. So basically, it's like a repos which are not part of Nix packages yet, or will never become. And it's like basically a playground, or not playground. How do you call it?
It's like
selection of tools. Yeah.
It's like a place where people can have shared membership over projects. Because often someone like starts building a tool because I need this, I need to implement something that can make integrate Cradle into Nix or something like that, and then they build this tool, and maybe they have like other things in personal life, and now they suddenly don't have as much time to maintain these things anymore. And Nix Community is like an easy place where you can also move around maintainers and so that projects that don't just get abandoned, so that we can easily assign a new one, and we don't have to like go through the stance of, we have this new fork, and now this fork becomes the official instance and all these things. So we can keep things more under one umbrella, and also we can build on shared infrastructure, because it would be too expensive if everyone would buy their own servers and connect them to the internet and then use them just for their one project. But it's when we pool things together, then we suddenly can do more things.
Yeah, it's also discoverability. So if you see something as Nix Community, it should have like a seal of approval by some cool people.
Okay, we're slowly coming to an end. I have two questions for you. One from the audience. Stringfield is asking, what do you think is the most exciting project in the Nix ecosystem at the moment? Apart from your own stuff, of course.
Yeah.
For artists,
most exciting. That's a good
or
question.
Maybe what are you looking for most to finally land?
I hope for like the performance problem that maybe stuff like Nix itself, not like an external project. There's this feature called dynamic derivations. I'm hoping that this could be used to like create a new area on a new generation of tools that can convert from their own package manager to Nix without
so
like
Python packages or Haskell packages, you mean?
Yeah, so because it would remove a lot of generated code that we have to add to repositories, because now if you download Nix packages, it's like 36 megabytes, and I do this several times a day because you go into different projects and it always re-downloads this thing.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it not just like grows infinitely, and I hope that features like that eventually become stabilized and allows to scale out because it's you also don't really, there's like a lot of value that people see also that this is like a really large set that you can integrate into other systems as well. So like you have now a lot of tools that just use Nix under the hood. They don't really tell you that it's actually Nix, but they just like make use of this large collection and knowledge base of how you build everything.
Luckily, we will talk to John Erickson in a couple of days, and he will hopefully tell us more about dynamic iterations, because that's something that, as far as I can tell, he came up with, or in collaboration with other people, but he'd probably be an expert on the topic. Here's another question from Bu on Matrix. About Nix meetups, what does it take to do a successful Nix meetup? I know in Paris we did a few meetups, usually organized around talks, and then we discuss about how to rule the world. That's for anyone who doesn't know, it's a pun on something that Elko quoted in his PhD thesis back in 2005 or 6, where someone commented that NixOS is bound to conquer the world. But I think it would be good to also have workshop-oriented meetups, but I'm not sure how to organize something like this. So what's cooking for you in the future? What would you recommend?
Basically just doing it, and if it doesn't work, doing it again until it works. That's how I meet up anyways.
Yeah, what could potentially happen with some meetups is that if you like try to get talks every time or do like workshops every time, that eventually maybe you run out of topics or things. So maybe try it first with less of an agenda, and then see just how it flows. I mean, you already have a common interest field, so you can just talk about that. So and that is. I feel like this is never ending. So
yeah, and the problem is if you do always talks at the meetups, sometimes people who worked all day don't want to come there and listen to talks for 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah,
because it's like more mental challenging. Maybe people that come to our meetup usually want a lower way or to interact with people, so not a big mental toll on it.
Yeah, because with the talk, only one person talks, and sometimes you also just want to have different conversations about different things.
Okay, the show's over for today. The last question for you is, where can we meet you next time? So you're around in real life, not just online. What's the next thing that you're up to?
Tuesday is the NixOS meetup at Seabase again. Or in a bigger event, it's like CCC in Hamburg, the 37C3, where we will organize the NixOS assembly with some other people.
When is that?
Yeah.
It's between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So 26th
in Hamburg,
to 5th in December, yeah.
Yeah, Lassulus just needs to make sure that we all get tickets, and then.
Oh no.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, thank you very much for being here today. I suppose you stay around in the chat and Matrix and answer some more questions. I'm pretty sure that others will have them. You can always ping them on Matrix anyway if you have more particular questions. The next show will be in a few days on Sunday, 19:30 UTC, and we will meet Ryan Laffa, who will talk about convergent configuration with NixOS. I'm looking forward to meet you on the air again. Thank you very much for joining, and see you next time at the 2023 Nix Developer Dialogues. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Until next time.
Bye.